Ladies and gentlemen, there are whispers in the soul that echo louder than any cry of flesh. In the quiet spaces between words, in the hush before a kiss, and in the stillness between heartbeats, there the real craving is born. Not in what is said, but in what is sensed, not in the rush, but in the wait. If you are to learn one technique, just one, it is not something done, but something become. Desire, in its purest form, is not born in the body. It begins in the unseen, the unspoken, and the spiritual. Before the skin tingles or the pulse quickens, there is a stirring of something far deeper, a recognition, a resonance, a knowing. For a woman, desire is rarely ignited by a look alone or a clever phrase. It is sparked in the space where she feels seen without being touched, heard without having to speak. It is a sacred awakening that begins in the soul and whispers its way down into the flesh. Too often, men are taught to approach desire like a mechanism. Press here, say this, do that, and she will respond, but she is not a code to be cracked. She is a mystery to be honored. Her deepest longing is not to be taken, but to be understood. A woman craves not mere stimulation, but spiritual recognition. When she senses that a man sees into her, not just her body, but her essence, something ancient in her begins to awaken. It is not about being perfect. It is about being present. Fully, richly, unshakably present. That presence, that anchoring, is what calls to her. When a man meets her on that deeper plane, when he offers her the weight of his attention without agenda, he creates a space for her to let go. And in that surrender, craving is born. Not because he has performed or persuaded, but because he has witnessed her. Desire becomes sacred in that space. It is no longer about the quickness of hands or the cleverness of lips, but about the slow, reverent unfolding of trust. She will crave what she cannot predict. She will ache for what feels safe yet thrilling, known yet unknowable. You cannot fake this. You cannot rehearse it. A man who is grounded in himself, who has sat with his own silence and made peace with it, becomes magnetic. His gaze does not grasp, it holds. His presence does not press, it invites. She feels that he is not chasing a reaction but offering a moment. And in that moment she feels chosen, not for what she gives, but for who she is. That is when desire transcends performance and becomes devotion. That is when she begins to crave, not the man's touch, but the truth in his presence. Desire, then, is not built in the bedroom, but in the quiet exchange of souls before the first kiss. It is not the heat of passion that draws her in, but the warmth of spiritual alignment. She must feel that he knows the weight of her heart before he reaches for her hand. She must feel that his desire is not just for her beauty, but for her being. When a man enters her world this way, with stillness, depth, and reverence, he awakens a longing that cannot be explained or silenced. It is no longer a matter of attraction. It becomes a sacred pull. In a world that rushes and performs, that spins on the axle of urgency and distraction, stillness has become rare, almost mythical. And yet, it is in stillness that a man's true power reveals itself. Not in noise, not in movement, but in the silent command of presence. This stillness is not passive or void. It is not disinterest or withdrawal. Rather, it is a deep-rooted calm, an unshakable inner anchor that speaks louder than any display of dominance or wit. It is the presence of a man who does not need to chase, because he already is *. A man who knows himself so deeply, he no longer needs to prove himself to anyone, not even her. Women are drawn not just to action, but to intention. They can feel the difference between a man who moves because he's desperate and a man who moves because he chooses. That is the magnetic power of masculine stillness. It communicates a message far beyond words. I am here, I am whole, and I do not need you to complete me, but I see you and I choose you. In that silent knowing, there is an energy that pulls, not pushes. It invites without asking. It holds without grasping. It is the opposite of the frantic, attention-seeking behavior that so many mistake for attraction. A still man listens more than he speaks, watches more than he performs. His silence is not empty. It is full of discernment, depth, and groundedness. Stillness makes a woman feel something she doesn't often feel in the modern world, safe, and safety, paradoxically, is what allows her to become wild. When she senses she can rest in his presence, when his energy is so calm, so certain, that her own nervous system begins to relax, she finds herself able to surrender. Her guard drops, her breath deepens. Her craving begins, not for noise or performance, but for that quiet gravity he carries. She may not even understand why she's drawn to him. There may be no words for it, only a pull, a sensation that his presence feels like home, like clarity, like something eternal. Masculine stillness creates a container for the feminine to unfold. It holds space without filling it. It observes without controlling. It offers stability without demand. It says, I do not fear your depth. I do not flinch at your storms. I remain. This quiet strength is what every woman, deep down, yearns for, not because she is weak, but because she is vast, and she desires to be held in a way that doesn't diminish her. The man who can remain still in the presence of her emotions, her chaos, her beauty, and her mystery, that man becomes unforgettable. He becomes magnetic, not because he chases her, but because she realizes instinctively that she wants to be near the kind of energy that never wavers. And in a world filled with men who speak loudly but say little, the one who rests calmly in his truth becomes the one she cannot forget. A woman's desire is woven through story, through feeling, through the unseen moments that dance behind her eyes long before you ever reach for her hand. She is not ignited by flesh alone, but by the world you create for her, an invisible world made of presence, mystery, and emotional artistry. To lead her imagination is to step into that deeper place where attraction is not just physical, but poetic. A man who understands this doesn't rush to impress her with surface-level charm or predictable gestures. Instead, he engages the canvas of her mind, paints with suggestion, with nuance, with tone. She wants to feel as though she's being written into something larger than herself. Not a performance, but a narrative, not a routine, but a revelation. The man who can awaken her imagination gives her something that lingers, not just on her skin, but in her thoughts. She doesn't want to be dragged into a moment. She wants to be invited into a realm. A man who knows how to lead her there understands that the power of anticipation is far greater than the instant gratification of touch. It's in the slowness, the space, the unsaid, that her curiosity blooms. He allows pauses. He lets silence carry meaning. He is never so obvious that he becomes boring. Instead, he evokes a subtle question in her. What is he thinking? What does he see in me? What comes next? In those questions, she begins to fall, not into confusion, but into desire. Because her imagination is awakened, and once awakened, it will crave completion. When a man stays at the surface, commenting on appearance, rehearsing flattery, clinging to techniques, he may touch her body, but never her depth. Yet the man who reads her like poetry, who notices the flicker in her expression, the rhythm of her silence, the detail in her mood, he becomes unforgettable. She feels that he sees the parts of her even she hides. She feels chosen, not consumed. She is not an object to him, but a mystery. He makes her feel not only wanted, but deeply known. And in that knowing, her body naturally follows. For a woman to fully open, her imagination must first feel safe to wander and wild to explore. You lead her imagination when your attention is undivided, when your voice carries weight because it comes from presence, when your eyes speak even when your lips are still. You create a space where she is not rushed, where she is not told, but invited. And in that invitation, she begins to surrender, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Her craving doesn't come from what you take, but from what you allow her to feel, that she is the center of your attention, that she is the heroine of a story you both get to write together. The man who learns to lead like this needs no tricks, no games. His energy tells the story before he ever touches her hand, and that story is what she comes back for. A woman cannot truly surrender until she feels that the ground beneath her is steady. Her softness is not weakness. It is sacred, and she offers it only to what feels safe. Emotional safety is not a concept, it is a presence. It is felt in the way a man holds space for her, not just when she is beautiful and glowing, but when she is chaotic, vulnerable, messy, unsure. It is in the way he does not flinch when her emotions swell, in the way he remains calm when she tests, when she reveals parts of herself she's spent years hiding from the world. She needs to feel that her storm won't scare him away, that her waves won't sink him. When she senses this, when she feels she can fall apart and still be held, then asterisk and only then asterisk, can she truly surrender, not just with her body, but with her whole being. Surrender is not given to charm or performance. It cannot be seduced through manipulation or coerced through pressure. It emerges naturally when she no longer feels the need to protect herself. A man creates emotional safety when he listens to understand, not to respond. When he doesn't dismiss her emotions as irrational, but meets them with grounded curiosity. When he doesn't try to fix her experience, but honors it. She must feel that she can be all of herself without punishment, without judgment, without fear of abandonment. That is the foundation, and without it, no amount of romantic effort will reach her depths. A man who provides emotional safety becomes a mirror to her worth. He shows her, through his steadiness, that she is not too much, not too sensitive, not too complicated. He remains when others would retreat. He breathes slower when she spirals. He holds silence without making her feel alone. This kind of presence is rare, and because it is rare, it is deeply craved. She does not want to be saved. She wants to be held in the space where she can save herself. Emotional safety is not about being soft at all times. It is about being strong enough to carry the weight of what she brings forward without trying to make it about you. It is about being strong enough to witness, to support, and to wait without needing control. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her surrender becomes a gift, not a transaction. She no longer withholds, she no longer guards. Her touch changes, her tone changes, her gaze softens. She doesn't open up because she's told to. She opens up because her soul recognizes shelter. Her craving deepens not just because you touched her skin, but because you held her humanity. And the man who learns this, who understands that emotional safety is not weakness, but power, will discover a depth of intimacy that cannot be fabricated. He becomes the place she returns to, the one she trusts with the parts of herself the world rarely sees, and in that trust, craving becomes devotion. Presence is not merely being in the same room. It is not contact alone or nodding at the right time. True presence is full attention, undivided and unwavering. It is the rare and exquisite moment when a woman feels that the world has stopped spinning because you are entirely with her. There are no distractions in your eyes, no wandering in your energy. You are there fully, body, mind, spirit, locked in not just with her words, but with her essence. And that presence, more than touch, more than words, more than anything else, is what awakens her deepest craving. She does not need to be overwhelmed or dazzled. She wants to be felt. Not just looked at, but asterisk seen asterisk. Not just heard, but asterisk understood asterisk. Presence is the art of making someone feel as though they are the most important thing in the universe without having to say a word. This kind of presence is deeply erotic, not because it is sexual in nature, but because it makes her feel alive. It lights something in her that no technique or scripted charm could ever reach. A man who is present slows time. His silence is not empty. It is filled with weight and attention. When he listens, he is not preparing his next sentence. He is absorbing, studying, revering. A woman senses this immediately. Her body responds to it even before her mind registers it. There's an intimacy in that stillness, an invisible thread that draws her in, deeper and deeper, until she forgets she was ever guarded in the first place. Presence does not rush. It has no agenda. It allows space for her to unfold at her own pace, and as she unfolds, she does not feel pressured or watched. She feels witnessed. There is a sacred difference. To witness a woman with presence is to honor what is most delicate within her without invading it. It is to allow her to be exactly as she is, moment to moment, while silently communicating that you are not going anywhere. In this space, her desire blooms not from stimulation, but from permission. From knowing that she is not performing but being, that she is not being judged but celebrated, that she can relax and in that relaxation give herself fully. A man who lives in presence becomes unforgettable. He doesn't need lines or methods or games. His attention is the seduction. His stillness is the invitation. His calm awareness becomes the canvas on which her desire paints itself freely. She craves him not because he takes, but because he holds. Not because he reaches for her, but because she leans into him naturally. His presence becomes a magnet, a quiet pull that doesn't force, doesn't beg, doesn't demand, but simply asterisk is asterisk. And it is in that being, in that unshakable now, that a woman finds herself opening, craving, surrendering, not to what he does, but to what he asterisk is asterisk.